It's August the 23rd today. We're probably about a week earlier than we were last year, so we're gonna make some crabapple jelly. We have a couple trees in the back of the property here that we pick and we make the jelly from, and we took a look tonight. It's about 8 o'clock, 8:30, and one of the trees, all the apples has already fallen off of it, so it's fairly early, so we're gonna go pick some apples. So this is one of the trees where we normally get all the crab apples from, but as you can see, all the branches are basically empty except for a few stragglers, and you can see all the grass is matted down, and there's lots of crab apples that are on the ground underneath it. So we've had a mother bear and 2 cubs come here the last couple nights, and they've been eating all the apples falling off the tree, so we thought we'd pick some before they all get eaten. A lot of the apples off here. There's some left towards the top. I gotta have to bring a bigger ladder back to get them off. We're gonna enough for 1 or 2 batches on that. We're gonna boil them down tomorrow, and we'll see how they turn out. So just filled the basket a couple inches, and they're actually super nice. They're sweet right now, so. So we got on video the last couple nights, the mother and her 2 cubs. They're gonna come out eating all the apples off of crab apples in the field here. So you can see here's one of the areas where I guess the cubs gonna roll around and play and pack down the grass. So they're nice to see. Today we're gonna take some of our yummy crab apples that we picked the other night and make some crab apple jelly. Good morning, everybody. Just have a few free hours, so I thought today would be a good time just to kind of demonstrate how we do our crab apple jelly. So we have one container of crab apples that we picked the other night. What we do is we usually kind of pick a bunch from a couple different trees, and then we kind of try them out, and they all taste differently. So it's probably a good time to do it. It's starting to cool off at nighttime now, reaching the high 30s, low 40s, and the leaves are starting to kind of change color. Also, a lot of the crab apples that we had been picking, or we picked in years gone past, have been falling off just because I think it's been a lot warmer summer than we normally have up here. And the bears have been out. They're plentiful this year. We've got a mother and cub that keeps coming back, and they're eating all the crab apples that fall from the trees and that are on the trees themselves. So we've picked a bunch of different batches of crab apples, and we're gonna just do a bunch today. So what we do is we have some jars here, the mason jars. They're the 250 ml ones. So we generally do them in smaller batches. So I mean, I know you can get the 125 ml jars or the 500 ones, but we like to do 250 because that way it gives us enough jam that we can kind of use in a couple days or maybe a week, or we can even give those away. So we like the Bernardin ones that have the separate lid and the rings on them, and I'll kind of show you how to take care of those. So what we do is we're just boiling some water outside. We're doing it on the Coleman stove. We'll boil it, and we'll put it in the mason jars for about 10 minutes, sterilize them. Then we'll take them out, and I'll boil down the crab apples. Bought some cheesecloth for the first time in a couple of years. We had been using my dad's old cheesecloth from moose hunting, but we finally ran out of that. And we'll strain it through the cheesecloth and we'll jar it, and we'll show you how to put it back in boiling water and make sure it's all processed properly. So stay tuned. Okay, first up, I usually do the rings and the lids, so I'll have those in there. We have there's 8 jars right now. We're going to do that, and I'll boil that for about 10 minutes. Take those out and put the jars in. Yeah, the first step was to do the rings and the lids. I can't find my jar and grabber, so I'll just use one of the tools from the shop we cleaned up. So we'll take the lids and the rings out, we'll put those aside, and then we'll boil the jars. Well, the jars are all done, so we'll take all those out, rinse out the pot, we'll get some fresh water, then we'll start boiling down the apples and cooking them. Okay, next step is put some fresh water in there. I put the crab apples in there, rinsed them all off. I know some people take the stems off. I just usually sort through and pick out the leaves and leave the stems on. So what we'll do is we'll just boil that, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes depending on how long it takes, and we'll wait for the apples to kind of basically turn to mush. And once they turn to mush, I'll just use a masher. We'll mash them down, and we'll keep cooking it until it reaches I think it online says about 220 degrees Fahrenheit, but we'll come back after the crab apples are cooked. Okay, well, it's finished kind of boiling down. I've mushed everything pretty good, and it's looks pretty good. So that's been maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes by the time it started kind of boiling, and kind of let it simmer. So we'll take that pot, taking some cheesecloth, and just kind of put it into a strainer, into a pot. And what we'll do is we'll just dump this into that pot and kind of let it strain through. We'll take the juice, and we'll add some sugar to that. So it's in there. We'll just kind of let it drain through. It should maybe take half hour or so. That's been about 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So we've let the cheesecloth and the cooked down apple sit in the strainer, and we have probably about an inch of liquid underneath that. So what we'll do is we'll just take out the cheesecloth of the apple, and we're going to throw that out. I've tried feeding that to animals before, the bears or deer. Nothing will even eat that. So I guess all the sugar and all the good juice is kind of cooked out of it. So nothing enjoys it. So that's going to go in the garbage. And then we'll take the liquid, and we'll add some sugar, and we'll boil that again. So right now I'm just kind of starting a second batch right now. So we'll add that to the first one, and then we'll add the sugar, and we'll boil it, heat it up until it's about the perfect temperature. Then we'll put it in the jars. Okay, well, I have the second batch done. We have the pot. There's probably about I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 liters in there. So I'm gonna take it inside, I'm gonna measure it out, see how much it is, and then we'll add the sugar. Okay, we have the juice. We've drained that all. We put it into the old pot. We're going to put that back on the stove outside. So I'm just going to get some plain white sugar. We're going to add that to the juice. So if you look online, the online recipes call for adding either between 3/4 to 1 cup of sugar per 4 cups of the liquid. So with that ratio, I mean, we could add up to I guess 3 or 4 cups of sugar, which I find is too sweet. So it's just kind of personal preference. I know with these crab apples, you don't have to add a lot of sugar to make it turn into a jelly or to make it sweet. So what I usually go is between 1/4 and 1/2 cup of sugar, and try that out, and I'll heat it up and I'll taste it, and I'll know better once we get out on the stove. So we'll bring it outside. We're going to heat it up to just over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. I do not have a thermometer, so what I just do is use a spoon, put the cold spoon into the liquid, bring it out, put it onto a plate, and kind of see if it congeals. So usually if it's at the right level, it will congeal on the spoon within about 10 minutes, and I know it's ready to jar up. Okay, I got it on the stove. It's coming to a pretty good boil, so I'll let that boil for about 10 minutes. I'm going to turn it down just so it doesn't burn. Then I'll turn that down and let it simmer for maybe about 5 minutes or so. Then I can tell by looking at it right now that it probably has about the right amount of sugar in there. So I put in 1 3/4 cups of sugar only, so I didn't put in very much. So we'll just keep that boiling. We'll turn it down and we'll test it to make sure that it's going to jelly up. So I've had it boiling another about 10 minutes or so. It's kind of just a fine line between it boiling over and not. So, I mean, you can skim off this foam if you want to. I usually just do that when I pour it into the jar. So we'll cool that down and turn it down, sorry, and we'll let it simmer for maybe about 10 minutes and should be ready to put into the jars. Okay, I've let that simmer another 10 minutes or so, and I put it on the spoon just to kind of let it cool down. So it seems to be hardening up pretty good, so I think it's just about ready to jar. Okay, I think it's ready to go, so I'm just going to use a jar and I'll spoon in the liquid and I'll fill up the jars. Put the camera down and I'll come back. You have the lids on. I'm just going to put them on hand tight. And what I did was I just basically filled it up just to the bottom of the threads on the lid. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to boil some more water, put them back in the boiling water for about 5 minutes, wait for the lids to kind of pop the seal, and they'll be ready to go. Okay, I have these second set of jars in there. I'm just going to boil them for 5 minutes or so. Have these ones done. And we'll let them cool off, and then we'll bring them inside, and we're all done. It's turning into a nice day. It's not too bad. It's probably about 75 degrees, so. Sit back and enjoy some of her jelly. So not too bad of a process. I mean, from start to finish, it's probably taken me about 3 hours. So I mean, it's a little time consuming and kind of pain at some points, but it's nice to sit back in the wintertime, a nice cold snowy morning, and have some of the homemade jelly from the summertime on your toast. Now we're going to try the jelly this year. Of just one plain one, as well as one, this is from last year. So I opened this the other day, and this is one of the ones that we put the ghost peppers into. So it's got a little bit of a bite to it. So we'll put that on half the piece of toast, and we'll open one of the new plain ones if I can open one of the new plain ones. And we'll put that on the other half of the toast. Try to taste this one. That one has a little heat to it, so ones with all the peppers, we just labeled them just so we didn't confuse those to give those away. But anyway, as you can see, the jelly turned out great, and we've stored some of these one for about a year and a half, and we've had no issues with them down in the root cellar. So it's a fall tradition that we enjoy.